Good afternoon, Rotarians and guests. My name is Richard Dent and I am your MC for the day. We would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation and pay our respects to elders past, present and future, and extend that respect to all Indigenous Australians present today. I'd also like to note that early voting opens on the referendum on Monday, so Australians get a say about the way Indigenous people are advising government. Welcome to our hybrid meeting, and to those online and in the room. Apparently there's some football match this coming Saturday, is there? Yeah. Ross and I are both Carlton supporters, so as far as we're concerned, it all finished last Friday night, I'm afraid to say, but there we go. Thanks today will be given by Ross Scholes-Robertson, followed by the loyal toast presented by President Chris. Please ensure that your glasses are charged. Ross.
Yes, I'm still drying my eyes a little bit. Did anybody here go to a grand final before 1947? I've won. I went to the 1947 grand final. I was 11 years old. And as a Carlton supporter, following in my dad's footsteps, I was absolutely thrilled when we beat Essendon by 1 point after a late Fred Stafford goal. Now our children and most of our grandchildren are Carlton supporters. All of us were pleased that Carlton ended up this year so well. We were sorry they didn't win last week, but you've got to accept these things. Then there was another thought I had. Black lives matter. When I feel it should be all lives matter. And a more recent voice to me has been the song of the Seekers. We are one, I better not sing it, but we are many, and from all the lands on earth we come. We share a dream and sing with one voice. I am, you are, we are Australian. Surely this should be our aim. And finally, it seems appropriate today to give thanks for good food, for our very competitive AFL finals, and for our friendly fellowship together.
I can see this is going to be a very entertaining and jovial event, which is a nice change for us. Rotarians and guests, a toast to Australia and Rotary International. Australia and Rotary International. Thank you. Please be seated. On your table are the footy quiz questions prepared by our dear member, Peter Jones. Please work together and make sure you give the quiz your full attention. Answers will be provided at the end of the lunch and a winning table for 2023 session declared. It'll be a good idea to appoint a scribe and spokesperson for your table. I'm very pleased we've got Mark Robertson on our table. We will now break for lunch and we'll reconvene at 1:10. For those online, please take up the offer of the Zoom breakout rooms, which will open shortly. Thank you. Members, visitors and guests, it is my pleasure to welcome you to our 13th meeting of this Rotary year and our 5,004th meeting in our 103rd year. It's wonderful to see you all here today for our grand final lunch, including those attending online. Our guest speaker today is Mark Anderson, Executive Manager, Club and Sport at the MCC, who will be speaking on finals fever at the G and will be more formally introduced later in the program by our Chair of the Day, Bernie McIntosh. In the meantime, would you please acknowledge and make Mark welcome? Thank you, Mark. We have visiting Rotarians, visitors and guests of members. Victor Sumas, a Rotarian from Sweden. We will exchange club banners shortly. I invite you and your host to stand as your name is announced and ask that you please remain standing to enable the club to welcome you in a collective manner. So visiting our club, we have Victor Sumas from the Rotary Club of Lund, Sweden.
Anderson. I think he used to be CEO.
Guest of Rotarians, Nova Gill.
At Collingwood.
Amit Gill. Julie Gleeson, guest of Peter Hollingworth. Vanessa Hall, guest of John Petterbury. Dimi and Costa Seothis, guest of Stephen Rando, as well as Sally Wu, guest of Stephen Rando. Please join me in making all of our visitors, visiting Rotarians and guests of members welcome. Thank you. Welcome. We're also very pleased today to congratulate Stephen Lake, a member of 27 years, long-standing Toorak 2 captain, as we all know, involved extensively in membership activities, a great supporter of the 0808 activities, as well as a supporter of the club. Congratulations and thank you for your Rotary service, Stephen. Thank you. I don't know if he's here today. Okay. Next week's meeting is our traditional Australian Rotary Health Lift the Lid on Mental Health Day. And we'll be creative. We're looking for creative awareness with our hats. Now, some might say I'm being creative here, wearing this hat. Bring your own or have a lend of one of our tastefully selected hats. It'll only cost you a modest voluntary donations, and of course, all donations will support Australian Rotary Health. Our October evening meeting gathering, just a few days after our launch, we have the wonderful opportunity to learn more about the year's 2023 Winter Masterpiece exhibition at the National Gallery of Victoria, which features Pierre Bonnard, with a special expert delivery being arranged by the Arts Committee at 5:45 p.m. for our 6 p.m. start at the NGV. Following which some may wish to view the exhibition, but whether or not you choose to do so, you will also be welcome to an informal fellowship dinner. But we need to confirm bookings for this opportunity to learn about Bonnard by this coming Friday, 29th September, so please book urgently via Humanitics. To express interest in joining club members for the fellowship dinner, following the Bonnard lecture, please also contact past President Reg. Also, please remember, if you want to experience the Bonnard exhibition, you'll need to book tickets directly with the NGV. So, if you also haven't done so, we have the pledges for the Around the Bay event on our tables. It's going to be a wonderful event coming up in 2 weeks' time. Please fill in the form, and we look forward to supporting our riders and also volunteers. Before I draw today's raffle, again, we've mentioned the Around the Bay team. There'll be an annual raffle of a $2,000 voucher towards the purchase of a bike or cycling accessories is launching today. So raffle tickets are available online through Humanitics. All members will receive an email explaining how to support this important annual event. So great. And now to the business of the day. Without further ado, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome to the podium our Chair of the Day, Bernie McIntosh, to take over the meeting. Thank you, Bernie.
Thank you, everyone. Just before I introduce Mark, just a reminder, the trivia questions will be due and will be self-correcting. So is it not? But you're all Rotarians, so I'm sure that honesty will be okay. And we will be announcing the trivia questions after Mark has taken questions. Mark Anderson has had a diverse and very important role at the Melbourne Cricket Club. As Executive Manager, Club and Sport, a position he's held for the past 20 years. As part of a 30-year stint in the club's administration, he is responsible for the successful operation of the MCC Members Reserve at the MCG on event days. He also manages membership, disciplinary and governance matters, as well as overseeing the administration of the MCC's wide-ranging cricket operations and the club's other 13 sporting sections, and 6 special interest groups. Mark is also more than a dab hand as Master of Ceremonies in many of the club's functions. Regularly performs the role of venue manager on MCG match days, working closely with the event, security and police teams in overseeing the smooth and safe operation of the ground. An MCC member for more than 30 years, Mark was a long-time MCC cricketer across various grades of the Premier Cricket competition, including more than 300 games and several premierships as captain. Post his playing career, he was chairman of selectors for 17 years and still serves on the MCC Cricket Committee. He's a passionate Melbourne Football Club supporter, still yearning to see a Demons flag at the home of football. I'm still yearning to see a flag. No one is more qualified to take you inside Australia's most prestigious sporting club as we head towards another AFL Grand Final. Please welcome Mark Anderson.
Thank you, Bernie, and Chairman Chris, and members of Rotary Melbourne and guests. I'm absolutely delighted to be here and out of the office taking ticket requests and all the like. So no, I haven't got it. It's an AFL event, so we don't have the tickets. So, but I'm absolutely delighted and privileged. I was actually here 6 years ago on the invitation of Peter Dakin and Peter Jones. So for those of you who were here 6 years ago, I'm sorry, I probably got all the same material. Not much has changed in 6 years down at the MCG, but what I thought I'd do to kick things off, it's always good to pad out a speech by bringing a video. That kills a bit of time. So we all know what a very, very special place the MCG is. And just to demonstrate that, this is a video that we play at some of our club functions. And I think it's just a marvellous reflective piece to show you how special the MCG is. So we might start with that.
The MCG is colossal. A world-famous cricket ground and Australian icon. But this place is more than a stadium. It's a meeting place for generations past, present and future. A place of firsts and lasts.
But Karen McCann defends her title and wins the goal.
Victories and defeats. Humanity's greatest achievements and rawest emotions.
That's what you did, Teddy. You stuck it right up them.
A place where on entering, it's easy to feel small. Because we're reminded just how much bigger the world is than ourselves. So we become more than ourselves. We become lost in our surroundings, lost in the action. Lost in a sea of people and passion. We become one with each other, a single team. Rising, fighting and falling as one. We become somehow closer to the people around us. No longer seat by seat, but side by side. And we become part of the moment.
And Australia are champions of the world.
This moment. Our moment. Our place in history.
That's a hat-trick to say, boy.
Our piece of immortality.
Here it is!
The MCG is more than a stadium. It's a meeting place. A special place. A place where greatness is born. And it's calling us. Step into greatness.
There we are. So, step into greatness is a bit of a theme for us at the MCG, and I'm sure there's about 22 players who'll be hoping to do that on Saturday afternoon. And sorry for those Collingwood supporters, just to relive the Dom Sheed goal just in the final minutes of the 2018 grand final. How many members here, or how many people are members of the MCC? There's a few. Oh, well, I'm sure you'll know what I'm talking about. So forgive me for those. Just a bit of an education piece about the relationship between the Melbourne Cricket Club and the MCG. The Melbourne Cricket Club will become 185 years old on the 15th of November this year. And only last Saturday, the MCG celebrated its 170th birthday, with the club settling with the police paddock in Yarra Park there in 1853. It was the fourth site of the Melbourne Cricket Club. It virtually started down around Spencer Street and had a few sites along the Yarra and before settling in 1853 to Yarra Park. And one of our late great presidents, Donald Cordner, a Brownlow medalist, a great footballer and a great person of the Melbourne Cricket Club, coined the phrase, I think, that the Melbourne Cricket Club is a private club with public responsibilities. And we're a private club now of 150,000 members spread across three categories. We've got 190,000 on the waiting list. And we have the public responsibility of managing and running the Melbourne Cricket Ground. And not just the Melbourne Cricket Ground, we also have 80 acres of parkland in Yarra Park to look after as well, that we took over from the Melbourne City Council some years ago. So it's a big responsibility, one that we take very seriously, and the committee over the years and management of staff have done such a magnificent job in doing that. As Bernie mentioned, the club is more than just the 150,000 members. We're really proud of our 13 sporting sections that compete in a range of activities and community sport, from tennis, lacrosse, hockey, baseball, cricket, you name it, football, croquet. And we're delighted. Our hockey section actually won the state premiership last weekend. Our cricketers won the premiership last cricket season. So all our sporting sections, we've had 33,000 participants across all our sports. So not just a club of membership of that gives you access to the Melbourne Cricket Ground. We are a private club, and we do run a number of other functions for our members. In terms of the ground itself, just running through some interesting statistics, I suppose, that might be of interest to you. We're a very responsible organisation from an environmental and sustainability point of view, and we've had a lot of initiatives in recent years that, not that I'm an expert in this area, but we have a water recycling facility now that puts back in 180 million litres of potable water back into the stadium. So we don't need to use that. We also have 2,000 tonnes of waste generated every year at the ground, which is significant. And we actually divert 80% of that, not into landfill. So only 20% of that waste goes in to landfill. So that's something we're very proud of. We're also now the first stadium in Australia that has 100% of renewable energy with all our power and so on. We've got solar panels on the top of the northern stand as well. So we take that very, very seriously, that responsibility for for a sustainable future in running a ground as big as we do. This has been a particularly big year for the ground. We have this football season had more than 3.2 million people through the gates. So that'll go to 3.3 by the time we get through to the grand final on Saturday. And what amazes me, and having worked there for 30 years, is when you leave a game on a Thursday or a Friday night or a Saturday night, that 90,000 have been through, you turn up at 8 o'clock the next morning and the place is spotless. It is an unbelievable feat. And after every game, 200 cleaners, they're all banked up on Jollymont Terrace and they're all waiting to come for the last person to leave the ground. And then they come in like an army and they go through the whole stadium, row by row. They vacuum all the carpet, polish all the floorboards and the concrete, and actually clean all the glass windows. And all that happens from about 11 o'clock to about 6:30, 7 o'clock after every game. And you only have to think back of the first final series where we had 93,000 on a Thursday night, 92,000 on a Friday night, and another 70,000 on a Saturday. So it's quite remarkable that that's sort of invisible to us, and we walk out and we just come in and see a clean stadium the whole time, which is remarkable. In terms of grand final, I'm sure you're all looking forward to KISS performing before the game. So I know you'd probably prefer to have the Seekers probably playing that tune before the game, but anyway, that's the entertainment industry. That's not the Melbourne Cricket Club. Don't blame the Melbourne Cricket Club for that. That's the AFL decision, I think. I think Andrew Dillon, the new CEO, is a fan of KISS apparently. So I'm sure they'll go out. But if you are there, that might be a good time to go to the bar or something like that when that's happening. But in terms of putting on an event like the grand final, people say that, this must be your busiest week of the year. Yes, it's busy, but by no means it's not the busiest, because we do it every year. We know what's coming. We've got 100,000 people coming into the place, and it generally works like clockwork. And we'll have something like 4,000 staff working on the event. We'll have about 1,000 of our MCC staff. There'll be probably a couple of thousand of catering staff around the ground. We'll have 80 first aid staff and probably 200 security staff, making up another 4,000 people in the venue to make sure it's a smooth grand final. From the club's point of view, it's a real interesting day for us. We've already got some people queuing because all the public seats are basically sold. And the way we do, and this is what our members want, that we do about 14,000 of our 23,000 capacity are sold in advance through a ballot. And we've got about 9,000 spots that are available on an unreserved basis when the gates open at 8 o'clock. We've got 65,000 live cards that can walk in. And somehow over the years, we've never locked anyone out of a grand final. I'll never say never. It could happen. Maybe if Carlton played Collingwood, we might have been in a bit of strife, but somehow it just seems to work itself out. And we'll get to work there at 4 or 5 in the morning. There'll probably be 3,000 or 4,000 people in the queue. By the time we open the gates, there'll be 7,000 people will queue up, and the infrastructure's there in Yarra Park. It's like a little cattle yard that we have done a lot of work in that to make it fair and no one can breach the queue. So we let 7,000 in. We distribute them all the seats. They go and take their seats. We give them a seat ticket for the seat they've chosen, and then 6,000 go back out again. We keep 1,000 in who might just go and read the paper and have a breakfast, but the rest of them go home or go into town, and they all converge back. And we get another probably 2,000 who probably come. All the seats may be gone in that first hour or so, but another 2,000 turn up to make that 9,000 and make our 23 capacity. And we'll have probably an attendance, and if you're having a bet, I'd bet on 100,024 because that's our capacity. So it won't be a person over that because we can't publish anything over that. So I think it's been about 100,024 for a couple of years now. So if you're going to go anywhere, just go one or two below that. But in terms of catering, there are some enormous statistics which probably don't surprise you. We'll go through 1,500 kegs of beer. We'll go through about 9,200 slabs of beer. So that's about 220,000 cans. And in terms of meals and so on, there'll be over 4,000 or 5,000 plated meals served around the ground. And from a culinary point of view, that's about 4,000 hours of preparation, which is going on now, preparing all those meals. And, another 2,500 hours of work on the day to deliver those meals. So it's just a massive operation. I could go through all the stats of hot dogs and buckets of chips and the turnover, but it's a massive operation that works like clockwork, year in, year out, and we just hope that this one is another grand final. As a Melbourne supporter, and I know there's a few scarves around where some of our teams have exited the finals a bit prematurely, unfortunately. But as a Melbourne supporter, I certainly can't barrack for Collingwood. I think that's tradition. So I'm on the Brisbane bandwagon to get the points. But we hope it's a great day. And the great thing about the weekend is it's going to be 27 degrees. So for us, that's another dimension for us. We've got a dress code in the members' reserve. Got to wear a collared shirt. You can't wear thongs. You can't wear board shorts and all that. So we'll obviously have staff, monitoring all the dress code and all those things on grand final day. The other thing about the venue, while we are a sports stadium, and it's said in the video there, we have 1,500 functions at the ground through the year. And we're competing with places like this and Crown Casino for all sorts of corporate functions that happen through the year. And we are an open air concert venue as well. And this has all got to tie in with our hirers with cricket and football. But I'm not sure if you've got any Taylor Swift tickets for February, but you'll be able to get rid of those for a nice penny if you've got some. But even, the Ed Sheeran concert earlier in the year, it's quite staggering. I talk about the operation of the venue. We had 108,000 come to a concert one night, and the next night we topped it and had 109,500 come to see Ed Sheeran play a concert. And the logistics of that is a much tougher operation than the grand final. We do the grand final year in, year out. We work with the AFL. I know the footprint of Yarra Park, it's all about fan engagement now with all the footy festival that happens out in the park. It's a big operation, but when a concert comes to town and you're dealing with promoters, it's a massive operation when they're carting stages around and you've got to put all the terraplast down to protect the turf. And it's just a massive operation these days that we are very proud of the diverse nature of the way the MCG operates these days. I could rattle on here about how good the club and the MCG is and how it comes to life on event days, but I'd certainly open up the floor if I can to some questions, because that might be an easy way to go about it.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for your speech. And we've got a few minutes for questions. If you could please advise your name and the team that you are supporting. That'll determine whether we take the question or not.
Bruce Davidson, Melbourne. I'm an MCC member, and I'd like to congratulate you, Mark, on the way the lineup works on grand final day. I mean, it could be a schmozzle, but it's always very well organised. And my first question is, what time should I get there to get a decent seat? You don't need to answer that.
No, that's the most obvious question. On all our data from the... This is an interesting point that we deal with. As I said, we've got 65,000 people who can attend. And from a member's point of view, everyone in the... even all our operational staff say, why don't you reserve all the seats? Cost us all this money to put this infrastructure in the park of queuing and issuing the seats and getting them out. But the moment we did that, we might get 40,000 people who'd apply for a seat, and we'll tell 17,000 people they can't come. And we haven't told anyone they can't come to the grand final yet. We haven't locked the gates. So this is what the members want. It comes with a bit of pain for us, but we've worked on facilitating that queue so it's fair and the integrity's there. In terms of what time you should get there, depends what sort of seat you want. If you want to sit on level 2 and 3, I reckon get there about 4 or 5. But if you want a seat and you want to stand or get up on level 4, figures have told us, get there at 8:30, follow the queue in, and then just go up to level 4 and you'll be up in the nosebleeds, but you'll still be have a seat at the grand final.
Thank you. Now, my other question is, every time I go to the MCG, I have an MCG pie. And I always wonder what the relationship is with these pies and the MCC.
Yeah, we've got a lot of partnerships, and we've got one with 4 and 20, so we just label our own. I don't think we get too much of a kickback from it anyway, but no, we do a bit of branding of our own stuff now, so I hope the pies, they're
fantastic.
They're good. I'll pass that back to our caterers.
Hi, Mark. Philip, Crows member, barracking for the Lions. Question. Rumour file has it that the Stones are going to do a world tour next year. They may be coming to Melbourne in March. If that is the case, will it be at the G or Marvel?
All the promoters keep it very, very quiet. The unfortunate thing with us, we could probably take... The promoters come to us quite a lot, but we can't actually take a lot of concerts because we've got to work within a window of time with our hirers. And if it's going to be in late March, like we've got Taylor Swift we've committed to in February, and if it's going to be late March, I don't think the AFL will be too happy with us before round 1. So I've got a feeling that one... We've had them at the G before, so this time they might be at Marvel.
Thank you. Peter Dakin, Mark.
G'day, Peter. I've heard of you.
66-year member of the MCC, I am.
And one of the great committee members, of course.
Okay. I thought it might be interesting. We see on TV all the seagulls that gather around the ground. When I recall being on the committee, we put wires across, trying to stop them, a hawk. But I might like to hear from Mark what we actually do now to keep the seagulls away. It used to worry me when the parachutists would come into the ground, whether they get caught up in the wires.
Well, thanks, Peter. We do use the wires. They've been pretty successful, and a few squawker noises on the top of the roof. The most effective strategy is to get all the chips that we haven't sold and dump them in Yarra Park while the game's on, and then they can all go and feed themselves for 2 hours in the park, and then we're okay. No, the unfortunate thing is with 100,000 there, we probably think the noise will keep them away because we've had to take the wires away for the grand final and the finals because of the production, because they've got sky cams and they've got, I don't know how many cameras Channel 7 come for the grand final, but because you can't have the wires and the sky cam and the drones and all those things they use those days, so we've had to take the wires down for the final series.
Peter Davis, Carlton supporter, MCC member. One thing there's always been a mystery for me because I think most people agree we're a heritage-obsessed state. We can think of millions of monstrosities and eyesores that have to be protected. One out at Waverley, big lump of concrete there. But when we were developing the MCC to put in the new members area, some iconic things like the bull ring and all that just managed to be torn down, and no protests or any concerns. So I just wonder how that happened.
Probably some very good presentations by our committee and architects. I can remember we did a forum to members, and there was some volatile members at the time, and I remember Bruce Church standing up and people threatening him from the front row and who was the president. But we did an architecture, and this is smart by the architects. A lot of the people wanted to hang on to the pavilion, which was built in 1997. To me, it was an eyesore from the other side of the ground. Had some nice elements to it, the bull ring and the long room and so on, but they did a mock-up graphic image of what it would look like if you had a new stand on that side, left that one there, and put a new one on the other side. And they showed the sight lines and all these things because it was much closer to the ground than what and it just looked terrible. They did a very good job in convincing the members, and much as there was some of those elements of the past which I think some of us would have loved to hang on to, and I love the old bull ring as much as anyone. I think the proof's in the pudding of how good it is now, and the numbers from a catering point of view tell a big story about how many people want to get into dining rooms and get into bars, and we'll do $1 million of trade just in the members' reserve alone on grand final day on food and beverage.
Time for one last question, perhaps.
I've got a question. Mark, you've obviously worked at the MCG for such a long time. What might be your favourite sporting event outside of football and cricket that you've witnessed there?
There's been some great moments. I wasn't there when Kieran McCann won the gold medal, but the people who were thought that was an iconic moment. There are a couple of things that stand out. I was there when Australia played Iran in a World Cup qualifier, I think about 2007. And it was when Peter Hoare ran on the ground, and probably it cost us the atmosphere at that game with everyone barracking for Australia. And they kept hitting the crossbar and they scored a couple of times. The atmosphere was enormous. But as a Melbourne supporter, I've got to lean to, there are a couple of finals in 1987 when the MCC was full. Robert Flower was playing in his first final. It was the year Jim Steins ran over the mark, but we beat North Melbourne and Sydney in two finals, and they were the first finals I've seen in my lifetime. And they were special days for me, that's for sure. I've seen one in Perth. I just need to see one at the MCG now as a Demon.
Well, that's all the time we have for questions. So thank you, Mark. We certainly appreciate the time that you've taken in this busy week to support our club with your appearance. We have a couple of special gifts. We have got a lot more socks there than I will give you. We actually, we've got one pair of Rotary socks produced by our beloved member Phil Endersby. So thank you very much. And there's also a Rotary memorial coin in there as well. Again, can you please put your hands together and thank Mark for supporting the club.
I just want to say, I meant to say it at the start, but thank you for having me. But I also want to say a thanks to Clive Weeks over here. He's a neighbour in my apartment block, and I've just bought a Tesla, an electronic vehicle, and Clive's got the charger in the apartment block, so in the car park. So I want to thank him publicly in this forum for lending me his EV charger, and mine's being installed, but I might need one more use, Clive, before I get mine in. So thanks, Clive.
Thank you, Mark. Righto, which brings us to the culmination of the trivia event. 2 minutes? Oh, how am I going to ad-lib for 2 minutes? Well, all done? Okay. So we're taking the honesty approach. If you can please mark your own answers. So, just rattling through the questions. Who won this year's Coleman and how many goals did he kick? Charlie Curnow got 78. How many points did Geelong win the 2022 grand final by? They belted the Swans, I think, by 81 points. Who was this year's winners of the AFL Players Association Most Valuable Player? Marcus Bontempelli. Who won this year's AFL Rising Star Award? Harry Sheasel from North. How many premierships have Collingwood won? 15. Who won the AFLW premiership last year? The Demons, yes. What year did Lachie Neale first win the Brownlow? In 2020 and 2023. What year did the Lions move to Brisbane? 1996. List the order of the top 8 this year. Collingwood, Brisbane, Port, Melbourne, Carlton, St Kilda, GWS and Sydney. Where are we? Who are the feature acts performing at this year's grand final? Kiss. Who are the top 3 in Monday night's Brownlow medal? Obviously Lachie Neale, Marcus Bontempelli and Nick Dacos. Which club holds the highest score in a grand final? Name the year and the opposition team. 177, 1972 by Carlton and Richmond. Carlton over Richmond. Which AFL club has the most amount of members? Collingwood has 106,470. How many teams are currently in the AFLW league? Is 18. Who is the coach of the Brisbane Lions and what record does he currently hold? Chris Fagan. He has never played an AFL game, but a legend down in Tasmania. Which team won 3 premierships in a row? 2001, 2002, 2003 was the Brisbane Lions. Michael Voss was their captain at the time. Who was Collingwood's last Brownlow medalist? Dane Swan. Will the Demons win a final in 2024? Righto, so if you can tally up your answers, please. We've got a couple of prizes. We've got a bottle of wine for the best dressed and then the pack of socks for the winning table. But if we can look around the room with the... did anyone get more than 10 answers right? Okay, a few there. Anyone get more than 12? Still a few tables. Anyone more than 14? A couple, still 3 tables. Anyone more than 15? Anyone more than 16? You got 16? Sorry, did you guys get 16? 15? Anyone get 16? Okay, the winners are. Well done. So, Adrian, we have a... The collective noun for Rotary sock, that's a table of Rotary socks. So it's a collective noun. That is the perpetual trophy. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Sue, would you remain standing up here, please? Sue Smith did a massive job in organising the trivia at the last minute, and she is also the best dressed, so she gets awarded the bottle of wine. Thank you, Sue. In closing, I'd like to thank our visitors and guests for attending. Thanks also to our MC, Richard Dent, for the reflection, Ross Scholes-Robertson. Thank you, Ross. Lovely to see you here today too. And our lunch setup and reception teams for their weekly effort in making this happen. If you can stay back a few minutes to help out, and we need the crew from the MCC to whip through here and give it a bit of a clean. A reminder that next week's guest speaker is David Cox, founder of Guitars for Veterans. David will be speaking on the theme of mental health. And just as a by-the-by, the Welfare of the Young Committee are undertaking a project which is replicating what David provides for the support he provides for veterans. We're actually looking at providing a project to assist students who are struggling with a connection to school, which has been quite prevalent after COVID. So that's of relevance. So we'd love to see you here next Wednesday.